Hello, everyone. This is Charismatic Cheetah. My name is Michael Young. What I do here on this channel is I talk about everything to do with the spiritual gifts, practicing them in a biblical way, thinking about them in a biblical way, but also calling out false teachers, false prophets, stuff like that. But also, I don't just talk about the spiritual gifts here. I'm not a one-trick pony. Some would say I'm a no-trick pony, but that'd be a fair assumption as well. But what I also do on this channel is I talk about pretty much anything that has to do with the Christian faith, walking in Christ, and stuff like that. So today I want to talk about a hot topic. The Trump trial. I want to talk about that. So, and specifically, how should we as Christians respond properly to the Trump conviction? So, y'all that if you've been living under a rock, or maybe you just don't care, Donald Trump, former president of the United States, was convicted of 30 some odd felony counts for hush money and some stuff like that in New York. He was found guilty, and a lot of people are saying that it's basically a political move by the Biden administration and the people behind him to silence him so that he can't win in November and become president again, because his poll numbers are just outrageous. His rallies are huge. There's a big movement going on with Donald Trump. So, if he runs in November as president, he will very likely win, barring any type of pandemic or anything like that, right? Like we had last time. So it can be a very hot topic issue. And there's two wrong ways to respond to this. And I think they're equally wrong. I don't think one's more wrong than the other. And so the one way is obviously the far left side. Should be over here, is the far left side, which is, oh, he's guilty. He definitely did it. Trump's bad. Joe Biden good. We need to throw him away in jail for the rest of his life. Yada yada yada. Right. So that's not a right way to handle this, because at the end of the day, justice is still justice. Like, no matter who it is, we need to look at things how they're actually supposed to be. That's what justice is. That's like the Department of Justice. That's how things work, right? Is justice it's non-biased. It doesn't favor one person or another. So that's the wrong way to handle it. So here's my thing, right? If the roles were reversed, let's say Donald Trump was president and Joe Biden, or I'll pick someone that had more momentum, Bernie Sanders. Let's say it's 2024. Bernie Sanders, he's running for president in November. He's got a lot of momentum. Donald Trump is the president, and all of a sudden Bernie Sanders gets thrown in jail, and he gets accused of all these charges, and the trial is very fishy, right? And it just all happens to coincide with 2024, the election year, right? And it's very obvious that the president and the administration and the people behind him are trying to essentially silence and stop his political opponent. So even if that, right, and I'm a conservative. I am though I'm not a hardcore conservative, I am a conservative. At the end of the day, I put the gospel above all other political stuff, but obviously a lot of the things in the gospel coincide with conservatism, right? Sometimes libertarianism. So I'm a conservative, and even that would bother me. If Donald Trump or any other conservative president was essentially using their power and the Department of Justice to silence a political opponent, even a hardcore socialist like Bernie Sanders, I would still be that's a red flag. That's not okay. That's not justice. That is wrong, and that needs to be stopped. So that's that side of Don't handle it that way. We shouldn't just automatically condemn Donald Trump. He's guilty. He's bad. No, none of this is a conspiracy to silence him. That's the blind. It's like bury your head in the sand type of response, right? But on the other side is the far right side response, right? Which we see a lot of it in the Trump movement in general and the MAGA stuff, right? Is that people are essentially putting Trump at the level of kind of like a messianic type figure. Like I've seen some billboards where they basically have Psalm 2, the government rests on his shoulders, and it's a picture of Donald Trump. Like Psalm 2 is about Jesus, the actual Messiah, not Donald Trump or any other political figure. The only person you could put that psalm on besides Jesus himself would be obviously King David, who was himself a foreshadowing of Christ, right? So that's the other way. We shouldn't worship him like he's like he's not guilty at all, right? Because here's the thing: like Donald Trump is very far from perfect. He's not our savior. If he gets elected, yeah, I think it's going to help a lot of things. I think really if any conservative gets elected at this point, like a real conservative gets elected as president, then it's going to be better for everyone, especially the unborn. However, Donald Trump is a very flawed man. He's a sinful man, just like the rest of us. He, quite frankly, I don't quite believe he's actually a born-again Christian, and that's my opinion. Obviously, I don't know the man's heart. I can't call that for fact, but I don't think that he's a born-again Christian. I think he has, done certain things to get the conservative vote from Christians and stuff like that. So, but regardless, God uses whoever he wants to use, right? He uses some people for different things, and I believe that God could very well possibly use Donald Trump. He could also use Joe Biden, but Joe Biden seems to be more along the lines of the enemy than God, right? So there's two wrong ways to respond to this, right? They're both, in my mind, equally wrong, though as a conservative, the second one I mentioned is obviously more tempting, right? So how do we respond properly as Christians, though, to this news? Okay. And I've already kind of answered this a little bit in this video. So I would say taking a slightly towards the middle view, though I wouldn't say the very middle, because the middle is in my mind indecisive, right? But so not far right, but a little bit towards the center, which is just like I said, right? To understand that injustice is injustice no matter who it was against, right? Whether injustice happens against Joe Biden by his political opponents, that is unjust. That's something that needs to be called out. We need to stand for justice here, and we need to make sure that people that they know that this is not okay, right? We need to make sure that we speak out about these things, right? So injustice is injustice, right? And the Donald Trump trial, from what I can tell, again, I'm not a political expert. I'm not anything like that. I'm just a dude that runs a Christian meme page and a small YouTube channel. Talks about my opinions. So I'm nobody. But from what I can tell, just all the signs point to the whole thing being a political move to silence Donald Trump and the conservatives from being able to win in November and kick them out of power, and they lose the presidency. They lose the executive branch of the government in the United States, right? So I think anyone who doesn't see that, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it how it is. You're asleep. If you honestly think that the Donald Trump trial was fair and just and nothing to do with politics, you are asleep. You need to wake up. You need to get your head out of the sand. You need to actually maybe quit watching certain all news channels for that matter. In my opinion, I don't watch the news. I just pick up snippets here and there, and I don't, maybe quit watching the news, maybe quit listening to your favorite celebrity who has no clue of like day-to-day life. Like they don't know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. So why would they know anything about politics? Why would you take your political advice from Taylor Swift, for example? That's just a bad idea. And the same thing goes on the other side too, right? Like we shouldn't take, like I don't take my political advice from Kid Rock or from Ted Nugent. I just don't do that. It's just we agree on some things, you know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, like I'm going to make, like Kid Rock isn't isn't someone I'm going to take political advice from or vote based on who he says to vote for, right? Like that's not no, I'm going to vote on who I think I should vote for, right? So understanding that justice is injustice, that what's happened here is unjust. It's a mockery of the justice system. It essentially means that democracy is dead in America, because if we can just silence our political opponents, then we're no longer in a republic, a democracy. We are in a banana republic, right? So and again, I want to emphasize this very clear, for maybe if you're not understanding me properly. This would go regardless of who's in power and so again, if the tables were turned, if it was Joe Biden being silenced by Donald Trump, or Bernie Sanders being silenced by Donald Trump, then still, as Christians, we should still speak out, even though like I don't agree with Joe Biden. I think he's a horrible president. I think he has no morals. He claims to be a Christian, a Catholic, but he's not. He's pro-abortion, right? I don't think, but regardless, it doesn't matter if he was being unjustly prosecuted in an election year on top of that, and it's obviously a political move. Then us as Christians should stand and say, no, that is unjust, and that needs to stop, right? So injustice is injustice. If you are, I think, but if, myself, when it comes to voting and who I'm going to vote for in November and that kind of thing, at the end of the day, it's okay. So here's something else I see, right? Is that people don't want to be either one of those things. They don't want to, like, they're conservative, but they're not like, hardcore conservative, and they don't want to be liberal. They don't want to be on that side, but they also don't want to be on the extreme MAGA side, right? So what they'll do is they're kind of like, they just won't pick a side at all, or whatever. But I think it's okay. Like we can back a a politician, right, and not have to go all in and be like a MAGA Trump hat wearing type of person, right? Like we can make an informed decision and say, well, I'm going to vote for the person who I believe has the best interest of their country in mind, and will make my day-to-day life better, and also will maybe stop things like abortion, right? So we can vote for somebody, or we can just refuse to vote. We can just be like, we're not voting this year. But no matter what, we need to make sure that we're not falling off the horse on either side, in the ditch on either side of the horse, by either going into worship mode or going into, everything the media tells me is true mode. So there's definitely a middle ground. There's definitely a way to handle this. So we need to, as Christians, we need to have the cooler heads about it. We need to call out injustice, which is what this is, in my opinion, without rioting in the streets or anything like that, because that's not going to solve anything. But we do need to call injustice, and at the end of the day, Christ is in control. This is Christ is king, right? So at the end of the day, it's going to work out how he has ordained it to work out. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you think. In the comments section, share it, like it, please subscribe. Anyway, thanks.